Welcome to Magicians Talking Magic. My name is Vermazing, and today I'm joined by two very special guests, and we also get to celebrate because the two of them have achieved a monumentous goal from the upcoming movie Lost in the Shuffle. We have Shawn Farquhar and Jon Ornoy here to celebrate. Jon, do you want to share the huge news that just happened in the past 12 hours as we're recording this podcast?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of the last day. We launched our Kickstarter campaign yesterday at 10 a.m. Pacific. By 10 p.m. Pacific, we were already funded, which was unbelievable. Not something I expected. By 10 o'clock this morning, so the end of our first full day, we are at like 129% funded with 200 backers. Which is just phenomenal. If you have trouble understanding me today, that's because my jaw is still on the floor. But yeah, we're not done yet. We still have a full month of campaign to go with lots of cool stuff coming up. And yeah, the more backers we get, the cooler the film gets. So yeah, we're just really excited about the reaction and encouragement we've gotten so far from the community, and we just want to keep on growing that.
And Shawn, just before we recorded, you were explaining to me about how you were sharing and posting and promoting everything in the Kickstarter campaign. And then you realized one thing kind of struck you. And I think this is an actually important lesson for all the podcast listeners too.
You know, we have a strategy on where we're going to post and how often, and just get out there. And I was posting, to Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, and late into the evening when we were, sort of going down and everybody's starting to go to sleep. I went to TikTok just looking for, something to keep my brain away from refreshing the page every 3 minutes to see where we were. And I went, hey, I haven't posted on TikTok. Let's post there. And so I did. And then like a half an hour later, our largest perk got hit. And we were like, what the heck? And I looked, and on the TikTok video is the guy who gave the hit, going, hey, I'm really looking forward to having dinner with you at the Magic Castle. I'm going, from TikTok. Yeah.
Yep, that was the one that got us funded.
Yeah, it totally took us over the top. It was awesome. And I am looking forward to having dinner with him at the Magic Castle and talking about TikTok. How crazy is that?
What a time that we live in. What a time that we live in. Now, magic and film have had unique collisions throughout history and time, and the two of you aren't lifelong friends. Often when you hear a story about this, maybe the two of you would be lifelong friends. However, Jon, you saw Shawn's show on your birthday, and you took that courageous step afterwards, and you've even admitted that it's something that you don't commonly do, but you reached out to Shawn to see if you could have a drink with him to see more about how a magician thinks. Can you talk about why you decided to kind of take that big courageous leap?
Well, to be honest, Shawn seemed so approachable during the show. I didn't actually feel super courageous, but email Tom York or something from Radiohead, that would have probably made my heart beat a little bit faster. But it was just such an awesome time. I've been watching magic my entire life. I've not had a ton of opportunities to see live shows. I'd seen Shawn on Fool Us before. And yeah, it was my birthday was coming up. I happened to see that he'd opened up this really tiny pop-up space. No one was sitting more than 10 or 15 feet away from him. And so the energy that existed between him as the performer and us as the audience, all experiencing these incredible things together, was just really infectious. And so, yeah, I just dropped him a line and said, can I buy you a beer? And that was 2 years ago, and we've still been rolling. So it's been, it was the birthday gift that kept on giving for sure.
Shawn.
Yeah.
For years, magicians have protected secrets of magic. In Lost in the Shuffle, when you watch the trailer and what you're talking about, it talks about sharing the patterns found in playing cards, the mathematics, and some of those things. Without going too deep into it, because obviously we want everyone to see the movie. What kind of secrets are you unveiling? Are you pulling back the curtain on to share with the public to help, increase fandom of magic a little bit?
I think the entire film's about a celebration of magic and giving them a look at how complex we are, and that we're not just like kids party magicians. Although there's nothing wrong with them, there's all different levels. When you hold the deck of cards in your hand, you just assume the things that we see all the time, right? I mean, if I asked you to describe the court cards, you'd say there's a jack, a queen, and a king, and they're the different suits. But if I asked you to tell me what they were wearing, you'd probably be hard pressed. and what designs are in their clothing and what are they holding. And that's because you and I do the same thing. We take it for granted. We see that in everything. And I started, for some odd reason, I'd seen Steve Beam at a 4F convention, and he talked about this Queen of Spades being the one queen that doesn't face the way the other queens do. And I was like, what? And I looked at the cards and went, oh, look at that. I wonder why. And it became a little nagging thing going, well, the artist must have done it for a reason. And so I started looking into it, and I started looking deep into the designs. And then I finally was able to put together the designs meant something, and that they weren't there just, it's just like looking at, the Amazon logo. If you've ever looked at it, it's got that little swoop from A, it swoops over to the Z because it's from A to Z. FedEx, if you ever looked at that, it's got a little arrow in the middle of it, meaning it's movies. There's hidden messages in everything. It's how things are done. Every deck of cards that's been made that's vanity, the guys are hiding stuff in them now, right? Magicians hide stuff in everything. Well, artists do too. So all those things were lost in there. And it basically comes down to, I believe the artist who originally made the designs for these court cards was telling a story that needed to be told, but it had to be told secretly so that they wouldn't die. And it's the cold case murder mystery that's 500 years old of the death of a king in France.
In terms of like magician's process, I think my goal is that people have a better appreciation of really what it takes to excel. So we will, we pull back the curtain a little bit. We're going to talk with, some of the best magicians in the world about their favorite plots, and how they've added their own flavor to something, that's, was handed down from generation to generation magician. The goal is not to give it all away. I certainly don't want that. I want to be able to keep on watching magic and enjoy it and be wondered and be awed by everything. So the goal is definitely not to do that. It's to give people a better appreciation of what it takes to create that effect that looks so easy.
And he kind of glazed over some of the best magicians. We have Alexander Duvivier. Boy, I have trouble with that last name. Duvivier from Paris. We're going to the Double Fond in Paris, which is amazing. We're going with Michael Vincent, 3-time Close-Up Magician of the Year from the Magic Circle in London. We've got Richard Turner. Don't have to say anything more about that. Richard Turner. Oh, and how do you top Richard? Juan Tamariz. We got Juan Tamariz. Come on. I mean, these are, they're like, when we sat down and made our hot list of who can we ask, we said, well, we'll put like 10, maybe 15 names on a list. And as they say no, we'll go through. And then we went, well, let's just start with the cream and see what they say. And every one of them just said yes. It was, mind-boggling.
When you choose a Mount Rushmore of people to experts on playing cards and magic, you start to think about, ooh, this is a hard task, but I believe you've captured it so perfectly.
I think so too. I wanted a really diverse cast. I wanted people from an international cast. I wanted them from different styles and different schools of magic. Not all, you can easily find 5 great Spanish style magicians, but then you'd be only seeing it from one direction. With this, it's everything all encompassed into one.
Jon, Shawn kind of touched on it a little bit ago. Would you say the underlying theme of the overall movie is assumptions? Maybe the assumptions we make about taking something so simple as a deck of playing cards for granted, or even a magician and the skill set that they have? Is it all based around the assumptions that we might make?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I want. If you, at the end of watching the film, I hope that you never look at a deck of cards the same way again. And then if you have that realization that this simple thing that I thought I knew everything about has so much more depth to it than I could have imagined. And, the research that I've been doing over the last couple of years really has revealed that, that maybe, another really common thing that you look at, that you regard in your everyday life, you'll also start taking a second look at that. And I think in recent years, there's been a lot of emphasis on how siloed we've been getting in our thinking. And kind of fixed in our worldviews on things, and these are my political views, and I'm never going to change those. But maybe maybe it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe we should be more open to re-examining things that we take for granted. And the cards are a great place to start because that art is so iconic. I can see it on the wall there behind you. It's something that we all know so well, but we don't. and so I think that's a really fascinating thing to explore.
Shawn, with this diverse group of magicians to celebrate playing cards, And through the conversations that you've had so far with them on the history of playing cards, have you been uncovering and learning new things, even knowing you're also well versed in Magic yourself?
I've been uncovering a lot, but I haven't had discussions with the artists for a very particular reason. The entire theory that I have, I want to spring it on them while we're filming.
Okay.
I want them to hear it, see it, and then have to question it. I want them to debate it with me. I want their eyes to open, and I want it to be fresh and alive right in front of them. And so I've done tons of research. The pandemic gave us lots of time. I've got so many new books of old books um, that I've dug off the internet and bought manuscripts and photocopies of manuscripts and contacted museums to get books and just on the history and the art of the playing card. It's crazy to think, the United States Playing Card Company doesn't own the copyright to the faces of the playing cards. Do you know why? Because they have no idea who did the art. You would just assume that was something that they knew, right? I mean, they make playing cards. No, nobody knows. Nobody at all knows. We know the region where they were made and why there's been anomalies in them over the years because of the wood press. They were the first to use automated, but we don't know who actually did it, which is crazy cool when you think about it. That we all know that there's all that math that goes into it. And you can talk about 4 seasons and the 13 lunar cycles and the 365 pips. And that's not by chance. That it was put together. It's a mathematical thing and that somebody went to a lot of trouble. And if they went to that kind of trouble to do that part, why wouldn't they have gone to the trouble of putting other things into? What I have talked to the artists about, though, is asking them if they would think about plots. This is an idea Jon had because we want the murder mystery to be like a thread that runs through the film, but we want to explore the relationship between magicians and playing cards. And so Jon suggested, and I think it's brilliant, because I wouldn't have thought of it, is to ask them what their favorite plots in Magic are. And then to each of them have a plot, which I'll discover then, and ask them what drew them to the plot, what the earliest version of that plot is that exists in print, and what they did to it to make it uniquely their own. And so we'll see 4 different artists talking about those 4 different plots, and mine, of course, so that's 5. And then after that, I'm going to take all those plots and blend them together into a routine based on the things I learned from them and the techniques that I want to put in my own twist on them. And I'll build a one-time unique routine, a court card conspiracy routine that will actually illustrate the whole cold case murder, which will then premiere by performing at the site of where the king was murdered.
Yeah, and that also gives us a chance to kind of see Shawn's creative process because he's actually going to be iterating and creating this routine while we're in production. We get insights into how he creates and what that process is like. Because to me, I find it really fascinating, like the number of different skills that you have to excel at as a magician, and to be able to seamlessly integrate all of those to make it look like you're not doing anything is pretty phenomenal. And so getting some kind of hint of what that's like and how you have to look at the world to be able to make those connections is really interesting to me. And I hope that is something that people really glom onto when they watch the film.
Yeah.
Jon, from having worked with Shawn now, brainstorming, researching this whole entire project, and you having a film background but an appreciation for magic, I'm curious to what you think, because my background is TV broadcasting, and then I'm also a magician as well. But how do you perceive a magician? How do they think different compared to someone tackling, say, a film or a movie project? Or is there a similarity there?
I mean, I think there's similarity in that you need to have one person who's got the overarching vision of what we're creating. But, I work in film production by day, Hollywood shows. I'm one of maybe 200-300 people spread across, North America who are working on this. Even on my last feature that I produced, I was at the top of the pyramid, but I still had, 100 people working with me, and I needed each one of those people to bring the skills that they had to make this thing happen. Even this crowdfunding campaign, like making films is expensive. We need all these people, hundreds of people, to make their contributions so we can, actually put this thing on camera. So to me, it's a very different process, the kind of collaboration that you have to go through to make make a film happen. Even, a documentary is a relatively small crew, but we've already got 10 people helping us on this campaign. And once we go into production, by the end, we'll probably be a crew of 30 or 40 people who've all had their hands in this in one way or another. And I think the people that I work with are people that are going to bring something to it. So it's not about me telling them this is what you are going to do. This is you are an expert in your field. I want your input. And so it's, my name is the director, but a lot of people are putting their effort and their creativity and their experience into making the film the best it can be. Whereas Shawn and people like him, they stand on stage by themselves. And I think, there are people that help make tricks for other people, but for the most part, you are coming up with everything. You are speaking in your own voice. And you're the person that's on stage every night, rolling with the punches and improvising. And so, yeah, it's a different process for sure. I mean, making a documentary does require some improv and even, scripted stuff. You plan as much as you can, but there's always going to be things that come up that you can't predict, and you have to be able to roll with it to a certain extent. But I think that it's a much more seat of your pants experience when you're standing up on stage by yourself with nothing to fall back on.
Shawn, for you, in that same sense, that we dissected the kind of process of making a film and all the people that go into it. And, magic to a lot of people, we don't really know, and I remember hearing lecturers talk about, I don't know how to become a professional magician because there's no set path to do that. It's everyone's different story. Where do you lean on other magicians or other people for your show or your act? Because everything is often done in reliable teams, right?
Yeah, I spent the first 30 years of my career thinking this was a solo art, and that I was the makeup artist, the seamstress, the costume designer, lighting director. I did everything. I built the prop, painted the prop, then performed the prop after figuring out the script of the prop. I did everything, absolutely everything. And I did that until just recently. I think Jon opened my eyes to, you can actually ask for other people. Yeah, I had friends that I turned to, but it was to say, here's my idea, and what do you think of it? I'm lucky to have people like Billy Shway and Alexander in my life who, when they were young, I taught them how I think and the type of magic that I like. And in return, they remind me of it. As I get older and lazy, they're like, you would never have done that 10 years ago, Shawn. Oh, he says, do it right. Oh, okay. And they beat me back into what I'm supposed to do, which I think is great. But yeah, I've got friends now, huge. The magic community is like a family. My whole world is the magic community. So they're like a family. And I curate magic now for my theater show, Hidden Wonders. I need, 50 to 100 magic tricks. There's no way I've created, 50 to 100 blockbuster magic tricks. And so I curate from other people and then ask them what they wanted to do with it, that maybe they could have taken it further. And then I add that to make it unique and add my own voice. But I was fascinated. I worked in the motion picture industry, and I never really looked at anything other than what my little job was. I had to do this, practical special effects, or as a magic consultant, I did it. And I never looked at the 300 other departments that were going on around me, because that was my part. And so I just assumed that was my job in the movie. I never thought about all the other parts. And now that I look at it from my own perspective as a magician, I'm going, why don't I have all those parts around me? Because I could be, $1 million blockbuster movie guy if I had all those things in the world of magic, right?
Now we're celebrating the Kickstarter. You've achieved the goal. You've achieved the goal, and you've got, you've got executive producers now, and all these things. I know it is very soon to ask you this now, because you talked about possibly discussing this after. But what are the next goals for the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah. We're going to start rolling out some stretch goals today. So as we hit higher targets, it basically just unlocks more production value, more opportunity for the film, more time to do the things that we need to do, because we need to pay the people who are making the film with us. They got to live too. So yeah, giving us more time, more opportunity. We've got a couple of great matching campaigns coming up. So based on number of backers or number of dollars raised. We have other people who will put that in. We've got Shawns designed a super cool set of cards specifically for the film that integrates elements of the story of the film into the cards. So on week 3 of the campaign, he's also created a special laser engraved box. So we'll have a draw. Anyone who contributes during that week is going to get a chance to win half a brick of cards in a special box. Shawn's also going to be going through his voluminous archive. I've been to his garages and his workshop, so I've seen how much stuff he has. And so he's got a lot of great memorabilia that he's going to start sharing with people too. So yeah, there's still lots of exciting reasons why people should come to the site and check it out.
While I have you both here, on Magicians Talking Magic, we always love to kick around, and I say kick around the volleyball, but we like to kick around the high-level Magic volleyball. But Jon, you're here too, so I'm going to ask some questions about storytelling, because that's so important when it comes to Magic. Shawn first, and we were actually talking about this just before we hit record. As an ambassador of Magic, this is a 2-question kind of thing. How do you attract new members to a Magic club? And how do you make a Magic club flourish?
Oh, I think it's the same answer for both. That's good. So the mantra should be quality, not quantity, because so many people think that the larger the Magic club, the better it is. That's not true. It's the better the quality of the members, the better the quality of the club. And the better the quality of the club, the more members that'll want to join. And the more members that want to join will make the quality of the club better. So it all comes down to quality. Attract quality members now. Small ones that really make an impact in the Magic community. Start with the people that are not just good performers, because performers sometimes don't follow through with helping others. You need people who are performers, mentors, thinkers, readers, researchers. You want those people as members. And when you do something, do activities so that people can see it. And just by being good, it'll attract more people who want to be good. And then I'm not saying be elitist. I'm saying bring them in and tell them that they have to be better than what they are right now and that they have to participate. They just can't sponge and leave, that they have to actually do stuff. The Vancouver Magic Circle, IBM ring number 92. I looked to the list of people that have come out of there, and they haven't all just done Magic. People like Jonathan Scott of the Scott brothers from the Property Brothers. Proud still member of IBM ring number 92. He took the Magic, used it towards the production, which then turned into television, which got him an empire, him and his brother. Murray Sawchuk's from ring 92. He's a Las Vegas headliner. Juliana Chen, first woman and first person of Asian descent to win the World Championship of Magic. I mean, those are just a few that pop off the top of my head, right off top. Alexander, youngest president of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. Billy Shui is now the president-elect for IBM next year. I mean, there are a lot. It's because we attracted good members. We attracted a lot of members, but it took a while to cull ones out that were just there for themselves, that just took and self-promotion. You don't want that. You want people that are willing to give to others. And once you get to that core group, our club is now, the president is Rod Boss, and he really looks for new people that will bring something to the table that will help to make the club better, knowing that once they join the club, we will give them stuff that will make them better.
Jon, when it comes to Magic, what makes it such a great vehicle for storytelling?
Well, I think, so much of movies, especially like fiction, is creating illusion, right? I mean, even if it's not, sci-fi spectacular, even if it's just, a basic character story, a love story, these are still not people who were real, and their intimate worlds weren't real. And we spend a lot of time deciding, what they wear and what they eat and how they decorate their homes, because all those things create the illusion of this 3-dimensional person who doesn't actually exist outside, as soon as the camera says cut. And so Magic is all about that too, but it's done, in real life, where, you sit down in front of the magician and they do all these impossible things that shouldn't be real, but they're happening. So what do you do with that information? So I think there's definitely a strong crossover there. I think, Magic in fictional films maybe works a little bit, not quite as well, because we assume that they're cheating, that there's some kind of, movie magic that's creating what we've seen, not that the person has actually created that effect on by themselves. But what we're doing as a documentary, we're not going to have that limitation, because you're going to have a single uncut shot that shows what the trick is, the same way that we experienced it on the day. So I think, yeah, it's a really nice melding of the two illusions happening together.
See what he just said there that made me smile big? He said one uncut shot. He's not one of those directors that thinks, hey, every 16 seconds, we need to cut the shot to keep the interest of the people. He actually understands that magic needs to be experienced as magic. I just love that. Just makes me very excited.
I feel like that got every magician excited to be like,
the second he says that, it's like, yes.
It's the classic world's greatest magic. This shot will not cut away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the way.
For both of you, if you could narrow it down to one thing, what's the secret to telling a perfect story? And I know that's a big question. So maybe Shawn first.
Oh, yay. A passion. That's the secret, passion. If you're passionate about it, the audience will know you're passionate about it. And as long as you're engaging them while being passionate, they will listen to your story. And as long as your story's good and exciting, they'll stay with you. Passion.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. I mean, my last feature took 5 years to make. We've already been working on this one for 2, and there's still a lot more to come. And so I can't think of anything else I'd rather be working on right now than this. And that I'm going all in on this one. And so yeah, so that kind of excitement for me. I hopefully it is an infectious thing. And I think we've constructed something that has a lot of layers to it. And it's something that hopefully you'll keep on talking about after you finish watching the film. And it's not the kind of thing that as soon as you turn off the TV or you walk out of the theater, you're on to the next topic. Like, I hope it's something that there's going to be elements in there that you go, wait a second, like next day, did I see that? Like, what was that? Is that true? Like, I got to go look this up. And so if it's something that, kind of keeps you engaged after the story's been done, we've finished telling the story, then I think that's a success.
Yeah, Jon and I were talking about that before, that he's done hundreds of films. I've done like 40 something, but if you look at my IBMD, I list maybe like 5 or 6, because most of them weren't what I refer to as a water cooler movie. I want this documentary to be something that around the water cooler the next day, people are debating it. We don't want to give them an ending. We want to give them something that they actually have to discuss. And it's, debate. I just love that. I want it to live on way past when the lights come up in the theater. And I think that's what we got with this.
That's neat to leave people with kind of that magic trick of a debate or discussion, because that's kind of an important quality of magic too, is to leave everyone with some sort of emotion to discuss, hopefully on the ride home or the next day or the next week, or who knows when it finally hits them.
Exactly. That sense of wonder and wanting to learn more about whatever they just discovered.
I have actually, this kind of just hit me, this question, because as I perform magic tricks throughout my life, some of the tricks I've been performing since I was, a preteen, and now at 35, still performing the same tricks. The story I tell with the magic trick changes over time. And I also find the same thing with when I produce a video, a corporate video or a video for someone like that too. There's always a little bit of a message, we're sneaking in a secret artist message. Shawn, what story do you think you often find yourself telling, right? You often find yourself telling and sharing with the audience right now through your magic. Do you think there's an underlying tone?
Yeah, my entire show. I have a theater called Hidden Wonders, and the entire show is a discussion about my life as a magician. I talk about my generational part of it, that, I'm 4th generation without a real job. But I talk about my disillusionment with my life as illusion. I talk about that I was doing 285 days a year on the road, 40 countries a year, but that I was doing the same show. And it didn't matter if I said konnichiwa, watashi wa Shawn Farquhar desu kana, or yanam no kapani mayo poruski, or guten abend meine Damen. No matter what language it was in, I was still just doing the same show. And it started to suck the soul out of me. And so I tell that story to let them know that this is not why they're here or why I'm there, because now my show is a choose your own adventure. The audience selects the props that are going to be in the show. They pick the order of the show so that they can see that I've diverted from that path that I tell them about, and I want to do something that is completely unique every night from now on. And so I pretty much share my life of, this is where it got. Sounds really exciting, but it reached a point where it was no longer exciting. And now you're going to help me make it exciting again.
So it sounds like you're just always interested in always challenging yourself, never settling down.
Yeah. That complacency thing, I've got no idea what that's about. I am by definition a tenacious individual, and I need something to challenge me at all times so that I've got something to, live for.
And Jon, same kind of question. The movies that you're attracted to make, do you find that you're telling a common story with these movies?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know that there's been a consistent theme yet. I've long been a fan of magic realism, and that's definitely been a part of some of my work, and definitely a lot of the things that I enjoy watching, because magic, the world in the magic realist film, it looks almost like the one that we know. Like, think of something like Being John Malkovich. It's a world that looks pretty similar, but then there's this undercurrent of just weird that kind of dominates it. And I think it comes back to that same idea of, things are not always how they appear. On the Kickstarter page, I referenced one of my favorite pieces of art ever, which was called Air Bear, and it was done on the streets of New York. And the artist just took some plastic bags and fashioned them and tied them to the subway grate. And so I just picture, your average commuter who's walking this same street that they've done every single day. They're just doing the regular grind. They're not paying attention to the world around them. And out of the corner of their eye, they just see another piece of trash on the sidewalk. But when the train passes underneath and the hot air rushes up, it fills the bag, and all of a sudden this bear comes to life. And he's just sitting there and just kind of bobbing around until the train passes, and then he melts back down until the next train comes. And what I love about that is the idea is that if you were so lucky to have been on the street and seen that happen, every single piece of trash that you now pass on the street is going to have this potential to it, that it's more than just what you saw there. So yeah, maybe that's something that I hope my films can do, is give you a different way of looking at the world, and introducing maybe some potential that you didn't think was there.
The reason why I wanted to ask is because Lost in the Shuffle seems like a true reflection of something that we often forget about a classic deck of cards, something that's always there, and you're taking a deep dive into it. And I think often most of us too don't reflect on ourselves and share that inner journey with us. Shawn, you're doing that. But Jon, I feel like I almost caught you off guard there, not really reflecting on all the incredible work you've created throughout your career, and taking that deep dive look at oh, there is this story of something that I'm telling there. And I think that's important that all of us as creators do. And I think Lost in the Shuffle helps us think that way too.
I think you're right. It's the whole plan, make people see things differently.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being on Magicians Talking Magic. Before we wrap, official plugs. Shawn, you are everywhere. How do we follow you everywhere?
You can find me at, probably the best place now is hiddenwonders.show, which is great, or Magic Champion, but it's only one C. I couldn't afford both C's. When you buy a URL, you pay by the letter, right? You don't? Did I get ripped off? Oh, it's like Magic and Hampion, or magiandchampion.com. Yeah. Or you can look at lostintheshufflefilm.com, because I'm all over that too.
Yep, lostintheshufflefilm.com will take you to the Kickstarter page. My company page is animalmotherfilms.com. We're all on the socials. We're Lost in the Shuffle Movie on Instagram and on Facebook, and on Twitter we're LITS_movie, so Lits Movie. Please follow, please share, and please stay engaged in our process.
Yeah, check out the trailer at lostintheshufflefilm.com. We have two. First, the Kickstarter little trailer that tells you all about it. I get to cut Jon in half in a Steinmeier modern art. That's really hilarious. And then the actual trailer is a little further down on the page, and that will intrigue you. I promise. It's really well produced.
There is a reason why all these interviews you do not see the lower part of my body, because we have still not been able to reassemble.
Yeah, I've only got half of them. It's going to be cheaper. I can take them as my carry-on.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jon.
Cheers.
Yeah, Shawn, Jon. That's a cat, right? Sorry.